I hired your girlfriend for the 200 episodes background. What do you think?
Hey man, she's going to be happy with me. It's her first big modeling gig. I think I'm going to be having a pretty nice weekend here shortly.
It's an early weekend.
Well, you know, Wednesday is what do we call it? Hump day?
Yeah. I got Halloween Horror Nights this weekend.
Horror. What'd you say?
Halloween Horror Nights.
Got it. I thought you said something else. I was like,
Halloween Horror Nights. At
yeah, there you go.
Studios. You know, my son brought me on a side note a piece that some dude had done. You know, the Disney CEO, whatever that fucker's name is like cutting every project and like, yeah, he's just doing the classic recession cost cutting thing and really killing everything in sight. And their new system, it just nickels and dimes the fuck out of guests at the parks. And anyway, some guy on TikTok did this comparison between Universal and Disney right now. And Universal's like cranking out an entire new world. They're killing it on all kinds of shit across the board. And it was just like embarrassing for Disney, because then they showed Disney's most recent, hey, here's what we're up to presentation. And it was just pitiful. So it's going to be really interesting to see if it pays off for Universal to be aggressive during the recession while Disney's cutting everything, but we'll see what happens.
Disney has I think they all have this to some extent, but you know, Disney has all those. I mean, it's almost easier just to recycle a movie concept for Disney than to come up with a new one, you know, with all their historical content characters there, you know, Mickey all the way through. You know, they can crank out a cheap remake and get it out there and probably make 50x versus going for a big studio action film that costs what? Those usually cost what, about 400 million to make or something?
Yeah, I don't know.
And then, I mean, hundreds of millions. And then try to recoup that. And you got to do it at the box office these days. I mean, I guess people are back out in movies in force, but still, it seems like a hard, in this type of economy, it makes sense why they would cut those big projects.
Well, look, I mean, this was more oriented to the parks and how Universal's aggressively expanding their parks and Disney is shutting everything down, and then also charging ridiculous amounts to use the park. But right now, what he's got in his favor is Disney Plus, because they're printing fucking money with Disney Plus. That's the thing that keeps him from having to do it. But my thing that's going to be curious for me is, coming out of this, you know, 5 years from now, does Universal surpass Disney in visitors to the parks? Because already, once you get over a certain age of children, you know, Hollywood Studios was built to compete against Universal, and it was built by Disney before Universal launched. And now, once you get over kind of that young age, kids aren't so excited about Disney anymore. You know, every now and then Disney puts out a cool new ride, but you go to fucking Universal and that's got the shit. Like, it's got like the hardcore rides, the really cool, you know, virtual reality shit. So
that's what teenagers want. You're right.
Exactly. Right. That's what I want.
Yeah, no, teenagers
on
up. You're right. Absolutely.
Yeah. Euphoric says, congratulations, your 200th episode. The show is an essential part of my journey in crypto. Keep up the great work. Holy shit. That's an awesome quote. I am so tweeting that shit out. Thanks, man. Really appreciate it. And thank you for being here. And thank you for participating. It's really appreciated. That's awesome. Yeah,
Euphoric. Appreciate it, man.
That's friggin' awesome.
Good to have you, bro.
Love it. All right. So we got some, well, I haven't even looked at markets today. Have you? Looks like Bitcoin was trying to climb back, but that's all I saw earlier.
It was up this morning, a percentage point. I haven't looked in a couple of hours. I've just been so immersed. Let me check real quick. It's, let's see.
Twitter, man.
It went up and down. It's still up. You know, it's right about flat. It's up like $14.
19,226 to 13,43. Of course, I'm sure the miners are still selling off their fucking ETH. So, you know.
Yeah, and also don't forget that, you know, we do have the FOMC, the Fed decision at.
Yeah, everybody's just hanging nervous.
Yeah, so these kind of rallies and equities in the morning before the Fed, I think it's a lot of gamesmanship going on here. And I think people are making bets basically about what's going to happen, 50, 75, or 100.
What if they do 50? What do you think the market reacts? Because everybody's, I saw a thing that said the odds are 84% that it will be 75.
That makes sense to me. I saw 48% for 100 earlier in the week, but I just think that the steam's been taken out of the market last week, and everybody's waiting on this decision. And you're going 6 weeks to midterms. Politically, you don't want to be accused of tanking the economy or something right before an election, number one. So I just think that they're going to back off a little bit here. And then I saw a whole bunch of data from UK perspective this morning about what's going on in the third world, with, the DXY, dollar appreciation, is up 16%. And, that's great now for inflation because it cheapens the price of imports, but long term, it's going to hurt exports, or medium term,
right,
or near to medium term, and that's going to affect GDP, which is what, if that goes down, that's like a recession-y type indicator. So I kind of get the feeling that my gut says, and nobody tells me anything, guys, I just sort of try to intuit shit, is that it's somewhere between 50 and 75. It could be 50, just because if he's going to take 2 months off now, or at least until after, when is it, November 6th or something, the election, I would give, if November, I think they could do it, but probably December, you go ahead and do a 50 right now. And you keep hitting that balance sheet down, keep paring that 95 billion a month out of there. And that's going to do a lot of the work for you. Because remember, my theory is that it's like a reverse multiplier, that if that asset is somehow in the banking system and the liquidity ready to be lent, then, when every dollar lent, I think turns into something like $11 in, say, business deposits, because, you lend company A a million, they have to deposit it at that bank that lent it. Then the bank re-lends out whatever the lending ratios are these days, the money, and then somebody then deposits it. So it multiplies that dollar up to 11, 14, somewhere around there. So my feeling is that if you're doing the same thing and extracting dollars, it should unwind too.
Makes sense.
So if it's 95 billion, whatever that multiplier is, I just sort of in my mind think that amount, let's say it's 10, then that's almost $1 trillion of liquidity being pulled out, or a potential liquidity being pulled out, every month. That's going to do a huge effect, and nobody talks about it.
Yeah, I wonder if you'll... Go ahead.
It's hard enough for me to understand it, and you get 15 different explanations from economists, but the net seems to be that it pulls liquidity out. So at this point, why not signal? Plus, the fact is, Europeans are getting ready to get crushed if dollar keeps appreciating, and they can't keep up on interest rates, or they're going to slam the EU and they're going to slam the UK into recession. So, I'm not saying that they do or do not, but if I was the Fed, I'd also be thinking about that kind of stuff too, because, you have to sort of balance it. So to me, I'm kind of erring more. I think I was 60-40 at 75-50 this morning. I'm kind of leaning a little bit more towards 50-50 right now at this moment.
50-50,
but
50.
Yeah,
50,
but I think 75. It's good for the market. I think market rallies.
50-50, 50-75. Cool.
Yes.
I think if I was
50% 50.
If I was Powell, and thank God I'm not, I would probably just say, fuck it, let's go for 100 and give myself some buffer.
Yeah, that's what they can think of. But look, one, they're seeing all the data. When you look at like the forward data out 1 to 2 years, there's a guy I follow on Twitter. He's on Twitter too, but Robin Brooks, IIF economist. And you look at a couple of these different economists, the big ones out there, they're seeing the data that the forecast inflation for 2024 is like 2.8%. And that's with all the new data in. So they see it, it's already tipping over, and they see where it's going. So the question is, if you want to do a soft landing, in my mind, you don't want to slam it right now. You want to basically come in wherever that optimal point is and hit that number that makes everybody think, oh, wow, okay. And, now it's positive again. and then let it run a little bit and see what happens. Because remember, this is a super tanker. We're not in a Donzi speedboat here where we can just turn on a dime. We got to say, all right, 90 days out, 180 days out, what's going to happen?
The what speedboat? The what speedboat?
Donzi speedboat, DONZI.
What is that?
Oh, it's an Italian little, they're all over Miami. I'm surprised. At least they used to be. Maybe they're bankrupt or something that I forgot. Maybe the brand's gone, but hold on. No, it was like a quick Italian.
So it's a brand of boats.
Okay. Yeah, it's a boat brand. Sorry.
Okay, gotcha. So Eamon says, wow, can't believe I've spent 200 mornings with y'all. Haha. And Joe and I were talking that we may start a DAO just to raise money to provide free mental health counseling for everybody that has been listening all along, especially having to listen to Joe. That's what do it. Shizzy says 200. Congratulations, guys. Shizzy also says the Fed don't want people selling bonds while they are selling bonds. I think it'll be 100 bips. And Sean is Mike is at 75 and the market rips up. All right. I'd love to see a rip for 75 just for shits and giggles.
Well, one other piece of evidence is that the Nikkei futures right now are up about 182. It's about 0.2%, but still it's up. It was up less this morning and a little bit down at the end of last night. So that means that their expectation of opening at the Nikkei, which is at the end of US trading session roughly, is optimistic. So that means, again, I think that tells me everybody's kind of thinking 75 in the fact of like not too big of a rip. Like if they expected 50 or 25 or nothing, I would see Nikkei futures being up maybe like 400, 500. But since it's 187, I think that the market is kind of looking at 75 right now and a little rip.
Yeah.
To follow up on Sean's comment.
Yeah. So Putin is calling up the reservists.
Well,
what is this, like a bunch of 85-year-olds?
Yeah, before we move on, Niblitz makes a good point here.
What's that?
I've got the wrong big screen. Yeah, no, that's 75 base. It's going to hit, the mortgage owners. Now, this is what's interesting, Niblitz, is that I was looking data on 2008 versus today. And
for those listening on the podcast, Niblitz said even 75 is going to be painful for us real estate owners.
Now, I know Niblitz is in Canada. Sorry if I'm doxing you here, but in the U.S., they're,
a really small country.
Hey, anybody up here know
Search
Niblitz?
Google for Niblitz in Canada.
Yeah. Hey, Niblitz is over here, man. but the point is that adjustable rate mortgages in the 2008 crisis, I believe it made up at least 20%, potentially 30% of the existing mortgages. So when things changed, obviously everybody got crushed. Now it's about 7% of existing mortgages in the U.S. I'm just kind of curious, Niblitz, what that percentage might be in Canada. Are there a lot of ARMs, adjustable rate stuff, or is it, if is it more prevalent there than in the U.S.?
Look that up, intern. Oh, we don't have.
Yeah, wait, she's dancing on a stripper pole behind you, dude.
Sean says 200 episodes. Congrats. I have marriages that did not last that long.
Well, I know it lasted longer than that, but
speaking of which, you guys are missing out. Look, Sean and I are like building DeFi on Bitcoin in the Mission DeFi Reddit. Get in the Reddit, people. And I've set up a automated message every Wednesday at 10 a.m. for you to shill your favorite projects. So get in there and shill your projects. Anything goes place, guys. So get in the Reddit and discuss it. Every episode, I'm posting all the episodes in there. So if there was something more you wanted to say that you didn't get a chance to say, hop on in and do it. So absolutely. Eamon said, yeah, my plan to sell got wrecked. Now just hold for a while. Shizzy says 200 episode after party at Niblitz in Canada. Yeah, we'll post his address.
Yeah, exactly.
Niblitz said lots of variables and a bit of Hillock credit too.
Oh, got it. Yeah, so it's a home equity loan adjustable.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you posted this up. Russian stocks see sharpest drop since February as Moscow moves to annex occupied regions. So 3 things yesterday, primarily. Putin's going to call up the reservists that fought for the czar to help out in the war effort. He's of course
World War Z. Is this World War Z?
Yeah, I guess he's of course threatening nukes again. Which now at this point it's like whatever.
But does he not realize that the fallout's all going to blow right over Moscow? I mean, this is what I don't get.
Well, he doesn't give a shit about his people, so he'll just be in a fucking bunker somewhere and let them all fucking. He's a piece of shit. You know what do you expect? What was it? So it was nukes, reservists.
Did you see that?
And annexing. He's going to annex and have an election.
Well, there was also some
like
news
the ones he has in
around
Russia.
That the Russian airlines had. And then I wasn't sure if it was true or not, but because there were people debating it at that point, like Aeroflot was saying no, but the other Russian airlines were saying yes, that they're banning boarding for any males between 18 and 65 looking to go outside of the U.S. Outside of Russia.
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's true or not.
I would have gotten the fuck out if I was that age.
Yeah. So all the flights were packed basically, and then they supposedly stopped. Now I don't know. Again, it's still in that is this right or true or not? But it kind of makes sense. You know, I don't think that they're going to publicize it if you're Aeroflot or Russian Airlines and go
no.
You know, but there's going to be somebody calling whoever controls it and saying, shut that shit down. We can't have these guys leaving us.
Yeah.
But look, again, this is like this whole double down strategy. The other stuff I've been reading says that the Army, you know, they just finished recruiting a bunch of convicts and stuff out of the penal colonies. And I think of all that effort, they got 1,500 soldiers. And most were like, no, we're not doing it. We'll stay in jail. And then they would do it. And now they're pulling up. So they first throw in all these 17-year-old kids that haven't even been trained. They wheel them into Ukraine. They think they're on a training exercise. And all of a sudden people are shooting at them. And this shit doesn't work.
Exactly.
And so they're like, and then now you're going to bring up the super old dudes with military experience to go in there and fight. I mean, it makes no sense. And then I think they still got to be trained up. They're saying that's a 6 to 8 month thing that maybe you could get them deployed next year after spring.
As much as I can't stand David Sachs from All In Podcast, a venture capitalist in California. Anyway, he made a good point. I think it was him that made the point the other day on the show that look, at the end of the day, all Putin wants, well, I'm not sure that's all Putin wants. I think Putin wants all of Ukraine. But I think he's at a point now where he's just trying to ratchet this shit up so he can get those 2 locations he wanted in the first place, which were they're oil rich or gas rich, and there's other strategic elements to them as well as the pipeline something I think there. And all he's going to try to do is ratchet this shit up. So he forces a negotiation and he gets those territories. And to me, that makes a ton of sense. Like, you know, that makes a lot of sense for him to be trying to do that. I personally don't think anybody should give any ground to him whatsoever. Like, because all you're doing is encouraging him to do it the next time too. I mean, he's not going to stop. He's going to keep trying to grab shit. So I don't know. I don't think I wouldn't negotiate, but of course I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not.
There was, I think it was Paul Krugman that wrote something this morning on editorial page. And it was about, you know, going around talking to different people in Europe and their opinions. And there's like 3 positions that seem to be coming out of possible outcomes, you know, and, you know, like that issue of, do you do a deal with him? Right. Just to like, as much as it's distasteful, just to like end it, or does Ukrainian go all out on the win? You know, Russia can't do that now. I mean, all they can do is destroy shit. They can't with missiles, bombs, that kind of thing. Their army morale is shattered right now.
Their morale is shit. They're untrained. They're under-equipped. They're don't have panicking. Food. Their supply chain is broken. Their weapons are shit. I mean, garbage. I read this long.
The whole command structure is gone.
I read this long.
Generals, and I think we've killed, not us. I mean, Ukraine has killed 3,000 colonels. I think something like that. And the Russian army is not decentralized like the Western armies, where you know, captain goes down, lieutenant steps up. You know, next man up. These guys all sit around waiting for orders.
Right.
And that's that. You can't get that rolling at this point.
Sean says he needs all the ports, gives him control over food exports. That makes a lot of sense.
Right.
The other thing I was going to say is that now I lost my train of thought. Weapons broken, untrained. Oh, that was the thing. This long analysis of the fact that there is no central command from Moscow over these troops. That there are all these separate factions of generals running each of the sections of the country, and they're not taking orders from anybody, and they're not working together. Is
They're
another
looting.
problem they have. Yeah.
Sean
also
they're
said
fighting over the spoils of the looting. That's the weirdest part.
Yeah. Sean also said, let's see how Europe feels after we freeze our balls off this winter. And I think that's where the pressure is going to come. It's going to be whether or not, we can sit over here in Miami and not worry about not having gas, or anywhere in the United States and not worry about having gas. But the real pressure is going to become if rioting erupts in all over Europe over heating, then those politicians are going to think long and hard about how long they support this and whether or not they push for a negotiated settlement of some sort. So I think that's a really valid point, that pressure is going to come hard and fast from people in Europe. So,
well, I think that's why it's so important to hold together now, because this will not work unless Putin asks for negotiations. Ukrainians don't want to negotiate. In fact, that's going to be the hardest part, is calling them off.
Yeah.
And because Zelensky, I don't know if Zelensky can survive an election if he caves in and, lets him keep that stuff, including Crimea.
Well, it'll take big fucking checks from the US and Europe, right? Like, hey, we're going to rebuild. We're going to build all this great shit for you. Everybody's going to have food and clothing and, all that good shit. That's the only way it happens.
Yeah.
It says a bottle of Jameson should help keep things from completely freezing over.
Always
Sean says, have my stock, man. Shizzy says, if Biden didn't stop oil drilling in the U.S., does Russia still invade Ukraine? I wasn't aware Biden stopped oil drilling.
Well, I think he stopped new licensing for a while. But, we're the number one natural gas producer, I think, in the world right now. I mean, it's always top 1, 2, or 3, between like Qatar and Russia and I think us usually. And, and then in oil, it's the same thing. And if you remember, we weren't exporting any of that up until maybe, how long it was, 5 years ago when they changed the rules, maybe 10, 7, 3, I can't remember. But you look at energy exports, we're like the only one on the list of all the countries that has a positive, that we're selling more than we're bringing in. I mean, obviously Saudis and Qataris and all those guys are in the same boat, but we've never seen these kind of numbers, I guess, in as long as they've been tracking it. So I think that maybe that factored into consideration. But as far as Russia going into Ukraine, I just think that this is a part of the Russian myth. Every country has a national myth or a mythology about it. That's a unifying cultural thing. And they have several.
Ours is all men are created equal.
I wasn't really thinking of stuff like that. I'm more thinking of like,
I'm just fucking around. I don't know.
Manifest destiny. This is the type of stuff. Like, God told us to go settle the West. It was our manifest destiny. I mean, that's what the translation literally means. They have that Russia-Soviet concept of Peter the Great and the strong, relevant nation. And I think the fact that, it was going away toward the end of the Cold War, their influence and their seat at the table. And I think he has this thing about wanting to return them to the glory days. And so to me, since Ukraine was such a big part of the Soviet Union, and if you look at like that southeast part of Ukraine where all the industry is, and then the grain areas, it's kind of where all the food was grown for the Soviet Union too. So, and a lot of the defense industry of the Soviet Union was in the Ukraine. So it really is, hard to pull these two apart. And I think it was something to do with that too. But also a rally around the flag thing when his country's in shambles. You want a quick conquest. He remembered Georgia, he remembered Chechnya, he remembered Syria, he remembers all these places and didn't think the West was going to get their act together. That it was too much, particularly Europe I'm talking about here, that it was too dependent on Russian natural gas to make a long game decision versus, dealing with near-term needs. And so to me, I don't see how he backs down. I think that's his big driver. He wants to be the guy that put whatever Russia, Soviet, Tsar, whatever the peak of their global influence is in their mind. That's what he's trying to create and be the one responsible for it. So be the modern day Peter the Great, let's say. It's just my opinion, but I think it's hard to put a particular reason. I think it was just something, because remember, this has been going on since, I remember going to a conference in DC when after was there the Velvet Revolution? I can't remember, but more or less they had their revolution, and then there was a Western EU oriented president that he got toppled in an election, and by the guy who then got toppled in the Maiden. This has been going back and forth between Soviet Russia and Europe for I think 2 or 3 times already. So since and in 2014, I think was when they annexed Crimea and the other parts. So it was going on 6 years before that. So to me, somehow Putin has to find a face-saving way to get out of this mess, because at the end he loses, and he can start conscripting people and mobilizing the Russian people behind the special emergency operation or whatever it was called, and then all they see is losing. I mean, there's an expiration date there, buddy. NGMI not going to make it, man.
Speaking of mobilizing, I don't know if our crypto DeFi community is capable, because we couldn't get off our asses during the primaries, but this is like red alert level shit right here. So there's a bill in the House being considered, potentially going up for vote in committee next week, that would put a 2-year ban on Terra-like coins, essentially banning the creation of algorithmic stablecoins. Now, I don't know if the wording, Bloomberg, the writers claim to have seen the bill, but I don't know if the writing includes projects that already exist and it stops the creation of new coins in that algorithm, or if it's just you can't start a new project. No idea. Illegal to issue or create new endogenously collateralized stablecoins, according to a copy obtained by Bloomberg. The definition would kick in for stablecoins marketed as being able to be converted, redeemed, or repurchased for a fixed amount of monetary value, and that rely solely on the value of another digital asset from the same creator to maintain their fixed price. Then it gives the background.
That line was really interesting. Now, just does the last line rely solely on the value of another digital asset?
So in other words, creator, if they're not fully collateralized, you can't create it.
So for example, Frax is not dependent upon, what's their other token, FXS or something like that?
Yeah.
It's not dependent on that for value, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So see, to me, that Frax is okay then. And it's an algorithmic stablecoin. Yeah. Right. So, I mean, I get what they're saying here. This is all over LinkedIn right now, of course, too. And because, you got all the lawyers haggling over there. Yeah. And again, the synopsis is something like, it's like the lawsuit from the SEC claiming jurisdiction over Ethereum transactions and putting that it's just this is going to get so watered down or so incorporated into another bill, because really all you got to do is say, okay, look, man, pause for a second. Frax is cool. Whatever other ones are cool are cool. No new ones till we figure this shit out. And nobody should be able to do that, three card Monty thing. And I got my million here and it's collateralizing my stable here, and my million here is collateralized by the stable here, and back and forth. It's just, come on, that just doesn't make sense in its current configuration. Maybe it does in the future. So I'm not too concerned about this one.
Oh, I am. Anything that outright bans developers creating something and putting the code out to experiment in this process, to me, is a bad thing.
Well,
and we have to
they're all
stop
doing
it.
terror fatigue. This is terror fatigue at this point.
Yeah,
You know?
but we have to fucking stop this shit. And I'm concerned that the crypto community doesn't have enough engagement or desire to actually fight. And the problem is the bigger players, Coinbase, Circle, those folks, it's really not in their best interest to stop this, right? Circle doesn't give a shit if more algo stablecoins are stopped, right? It's USDC.
They want them all stopped.
They want them all stopped. It's in their best interest, right? So my concern here is more about the fact that if this happens, then this is just step one, right? If they start trying to interfere with kind of developers releasing code and systems that create this stuff, if it's not centrally controlled by a human or an entity, then I think it's a slippery slope to killing a lot of other things. That's what I'm concerned about. I think we have to kill this shit.
No, you look. I'm not going to go against you on this because, I kind of think I'm saying the same thing. But to me, it's that when someone throws this type of language out, it's an opening position, and that everybody needs to engage, and we need to tell them the way it should be. Why you want to do it this way in language that makes it beneficial to the existing legacy players, and then keep going. But again, I just think this is going to get buried and watered down. I don't see a standalone piece of legislation in our current configuration moving all the way through the House and Senate to the White House on just algorithmic stablecoins. I
hope you're right. I absolutely hope you're right. But it's to me incredibly interesting that they're talking about getting this out of committee next week, and that they've kept it, basically the details of it, hush hush in advance. Tells me that Waters and if McHenry's involved, McHenry are trying to slide this through the committee fast and then get it on the floor for a vote. Now, hopefully the Senate, our friends in the Senate speak up and say, what the fuck? But
look, I got to tell you something informally here. There's quite a few senators that will just say, what the fuck, on everything coming from Maxine Waters. Okay.
That's true. That's a good point.
So whether it's right or wrong, I'm not trying to take a position there. But that's why. And so then if it does get out of committee, it gets its vote and then it passes and then it sits in between. Then the Senate has to take it up and they're never going to get to this. They're going to say, well, don't we have like 3 other crypto bills floating around here somewhere? Where's that agriculture committee one? And they're going to say, let's just slam this shit together, put one sentence in here, and let's get this thing voted on, because that's where all the money is.
Sure.
People don't know how powerful the Senate Agriculture Committee is in the U.S. Probably it's one of the, I think, top 3 most powerful committees. The other ones would be like, the ones that involve appropriations, the spending. Obviously, that one's, everybody wants to know those guys. And then something around national security or defense or foreign affairs or something like that. Yeah. But it's a low key one. So people don't always think about the power that's coming out of this committee. So to me, I think that's where the big bill comes out of, out of that Senate one that's circulating there that we talked about it last week, I think. But this kind of stuff, yeah, you're right. I mean, we need to engage with these guys, just like we need to engage with that Department of Treasury Q&A thing from yesterday, to put our voices forward. Because at the end of the day, as much as it's a pain, at the end of the day, they want, the U.S. wants this as a core technology in its economic toolkit, okay? And you're going to have to dot a lot of I's and cross a lot of T's to get there. But it eventually gets there. And so, but we have to influence it. We have to go in and say, hey, if we don't do this and it ends up in somebody else's hands, then we're behind them. Just like quantum computing, just like AI, just like all these, next gen technologies, we have to be, sorry for my European friends, I'm collectively saying we, the Western world, whatever you want to call it, have to stay on top of this. And if the U.S. is going to claim the gatekeeper role on the financial system, then obviously it has to be part of that financial system. So, but we don't want to do stupid stuff. So let's advocate why we want this, not just, when moon shit and stuff like that. I mean, that metaverse study I circulated a few days ago that had the specific in my Twitter feed, specific benefits for the banks and groups like that and the consulting firms. I mean, these are $1 trillion opportunities for them. That's what JP Morgan needs to hear. I mean, I'm sure they already know it, but that's why these groups need to hear, the regulators need to hear, and the senators need to hear. This is going to make, not only is it going to enable grassroots America and get back to the main street, but it's also going to make tons of money for the incumbent players. So it's win-win. Why don't you want this? I mean, that's the pitch I would be making. But you can't talk language they don't understand.
Shuzi says a decentralized stablecoin is the last thing governments want, but it's something we need, especially with USDC obeying sanctions. Sean says, dude, if it's actually decentralized, none of this is meaningful anyway. Well, it is meaningful for the people that are writing the code and releasing it. If they want to release their projects after something like this passes, because then they'll be a target of investigation, fines, and or imprisonment. So I mean, I don't know if there's going to be penalties for developers. I mean, we don't know what it is. Anywhere? Yeah. Okay. No,
we need to make sure that doesn't happen. Yes, absolutely.
But there's going to be penalties. There will be penalties. I mean, why would they have a ban with no penalties?
No, I mean, you penalize the people that would list that algo or that would trade. The same old securities argument they make about everything. It's the trading of it, the moving around of it, the intermediating of it. Hopefully it doesn't go to the developers like I guess it did with Tornado. Right? Didn't they pick a developer?
Yeah, hopefully.
I
I don't know what they'd pull. Yeah. I don't know what they would pull, but my assumption would be is if you're an entity or a person that's releasing this, that in order to stop people from releasing it, the goal would be there would be some kind of punishment for releasing it if they have a ban on it. But I don't know.
Maybe you can release it in Switzerland. I mean, that's the other thing we never really talk much about is there are these, Portugal, Switzerland, Singapore, places like that where I don't think that's illegal there.
Right.
If it is illegal in the US, it's probably not going to be illegal.
I don't know.
I don't think it's going to be illegal in the UK because I see this big move in the UK post-Brexit to differentiate on crypto right now in the financial services. So I have a feeling they're going to be the anything goes guys. So, if it doesn't work for you here, hey man, London rocks.
Right. Like, of course, if you're not a US citizen, go put it somewhere else. That's it. But that never stopped.
But I see your point. I'm not.
That never stopped law enforcement in the United States from going after foreign nationals. So the bill also would allow banks and non-banks to issue stable coins. Bank issuers.
We saw that coming.
Yeah, bank issuers would seek approval from their typical federal regulators, such as the OCC. The legislation would direct the Fed to establish a process for making decisions on applications from non-bank issuers. The bill would also preserve a role for state regulators. Non-bank stablecoin issuers approved at the state level and that register with the Fed within 180 days of that approval would be able to operate under the bill. So this is interesting to me because this is like, okay, do you want to be Wyoming or Colorado, the hero of crypto? Then start handing out stablecoin licenses to algo stablecoin projects, and now you've got your circumvention of the federal regulation.
Well, isn't Wyoming already issuing banking licenses?
They're issuing banking licenses, but this is issuing a license to issue a stablecoin.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a natural. What I'm getting at, it's a natural progression.
Absolutely, absolutely.
They already have the foundational law in place, or the regs in place. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I was thinking when you were telling me this, I was thinking about there was a guy. He's still in my connections. I want to say Robert Statica, who I think he was one of the original coders for Wicker. I don't know if you guys remember Wicker, WICKR. It was like, a Telegram Signal kind of app and ephemeral messaging stuff. And then he launched a coin in 2018 maybe, and it was called Black Coin or something like that. But it has some more. It's all over LinkedIn and Twitter. You guys can look this up, but it has some more interesting protocols in there. But I started thinking about when you're talking Blackstone and BlackRock and stable coins, and I was like, he must be sitting there feeling pretty good right now because I mean, it's a natural one for someone like who's got black in their brand to pick up or do something like that. Good. So, but it makes sense. Look, if you're Blackstone running what do they got? trillion or 7 trillion or 10 trillion under management, and all of those people, why not have your people having, the Blackstone token in their wallet there that they use for transactions, but also that trades on exchanges like a share of stock. So
totally agree.
That's all interesting.
I listened to this show, a bit of the show from the block, interviews with Vanessa Grellet and Melton. I never know how to pronounce her name. Demirors. Both are venture capitalists in the crypto space. And basically what this piece says is that VCs are saying, no, give me the equity now. They're still doing deals, but they're doing, full diligence. They're all of the shit that was going on during the bull market would just, give me your wallet address, I'll send you the money. That's out the window now. Now it's full blown. Show me the value, show me revenue, show me my equity stake. What's your exit plan? And we're going to do diligence and do the whole process. So, I think there are still probably VCs and investors in this space that are not doing all that, but the larger players in the space are now being less irresponsible about how they do this. So,
yeah, I noticed that their thing is powered by Tron. Thought that was kind of interesting.
What's powered by Tron?
The back, like at the bottom left of the presented by Tron. Sorry, presented by Tron.
Oh, that's an ad.
Yeah, but I'm kind of like, look, they should have all known this going into the gate. I mean, when I was running a venture fund, you know how much time we put in getting to know these people and do the due diligence? I mean, it really is. You invest in people, not product, number one, because product doesn't always work. Nothing that they're going to do is going to work the way they say it's going to work. And what you want to make sure is they're not going to quit and fold the tent or do something totally rogue when shit's going against them, or they're going to pivot the wrong way. So you really get into the people. And the fact that anybody with any responsible VC was doing this to me, I don't think A16, Sequoia, and those guys and their crypto deals, they're not going in, we don't know anybody here. Okay, here's $40 million. They're not doing that shit.
Right.
But, the other people that are playing with house money, that are playing fast and loose, they get FOMO'd up and they come pouring in. I mean, it's when you're looking for investment, you want those first-time VCs if you can't get the real established VCs. Because I don't want to say dumber money, but it's not as savvy. And they don't have a formal process to rake you over the coals and extract the most value out of you, like GE did with M&A integration. They just start, they're like us, trying to invest in deals, and they're just glad to get in. So you want to get those guys, some of them in your deals if you can, because it's easy money. Sorry, not pointing fingers at anybody, but I also saw, Kathy Wood's ARC, as of a couple of years ago, I don't know if they've done anything different lately, but they wouldn't touch anything with tokens. Of course they own shitloads of BTC.
Yeah, but all the other, listen, every player in the crypto space was investing with tokens, so.
Yeah, they all were. And
I don't consider her a crypto investor. I know she's invested in crypto, but I don't consider her somebody that's investing in seed rounds of startups in the crypto space projects. So,
no, I don't see her doing that.
So this I found really interesting, and it's not really that big a deal in terms of earth-shattering news, but this DAO Panda DAO, which I had heard vaguely of in the past, I wasn't very familiar with it, but the developers basically have decided to shut it down, and the primary reason was nobody could decide on anything. So there was a couple of things that were interesting to me about this. The first was, this is, to shut this down is better than a zombie project, right? Something that's just going to fucking limp along. If you can't get over the shit that's going on in the community and the back and forth and the differing goals of members of the community, they talked about the fact that they're the token go up boys, the long-term strategy people, the people who have specific product ideas, et cetera, et cetera. It's just, sometimes you just got to say, shut this shit down because it's not going anywhere. That said, I find it incredibly interesting that they actually never had a plan. So they raised 1,900 ETH, I think. And there was yeah, 1900 ETH, but there was no like, here's what we're going to do with this strategy. It was just like, let's raise money and then we'll figure it out, I guess. And if anybody knows more of the backstory on PandaDAO, feel free to let me know. I can't even find a fucking
they're
website.
saying this shit out loud?
Yeah. Yeah. They're saying out loud, we don't know where to go from here. Everybody's conflicting. We can't do anything. So we're shutting everything.
We didn't have a plan. They're saying we didn't have a plan.
There was no plan. They were all of the debate. The reason they're shutting down is nobody knew what to do. Nobody knew what to do. They had no real social presence. There was no website. And I'm like, but I mean, look, they're sending the money back. But this brings me to another point that I think is really important. And that is, if you're going to start a fucking community or DAO, as much as you want it to like grow organically and everyone to get along and kumbaya fucking yeah, it ain't going to happen. You, as one of the first leaders, the only leader with the first 5 people, whatever the fuck it is, you got to set the agenda and the goal, right? Even if you have to pivot later on what the product is, you've got to set what the fuck this is going to be about. And then you got to, this is the big problem we have in this space. Every community lets every motherfucker in who's a token boy or a moon boy or whatever, and lets them rant and rave and complain and bitch and moan. You start fucking bend that shit. You've got to stop putting up with shit that doesn't match what your mission is for your project. Get rid of those people. Get them out of your community. The only reason you get to a point where you can't make a decision about how to move forward is that nobody knew what the mission was going in. And so you had no plan, you had no goal, you had no nothing, and you allowed people into the community that were fucking it up. And from my perspective is, if we're going to move this industry forward and we're going to have DAOs and we're going to have community governance, then you've got to make sure that the community is aligned with your vision and mission. And you got to boot the people out of your community that are not aligned with the vision and mission. So anyway.
Yeah, it seems to me, I applaud them returning it. But yeah, look, I was talking about this on Twitter this morning, and what did they say to get that 1900 ETH?
That's what I don't know. And I tried to go find historical shit on the DAO to figure out what the fuck they were promoting. I can't find anything. So I think what they were promoting, I think what it was kind of those natural coming together of a bunch of people. Yeah. Everybody said, oh, let's work together. We all like each other. Yeah, la, 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 la. And then it ended up bigger than that.
And everybody threw in a couple of ETH.
Exactly.
So it probably wasn't a fundraise. Yeah, I hope that's what it was, because I'm trying to think what the price of ETH was when, if we know what it was a year ago, or, I mean, when they took the money, was ETH at 4,500? Yeah. Or was ETH at 1,000?
Oh, it said, hold on. I think it said here when it was. Turmoil within the DAO after raising $1,900 at a price. Oh, that's 1 ETH equals 500,000 Panda, but they don't tell.
Do we have a date when that was?
Well, it went through. Oh no, that was them, the founders. There was fights about Panda NFTs and all kinds of stupid shit.
Yeah, the only thing I was saying is that, look, if the people, returning the identical amount of ETH, but
I don't think they're doing
what
that.
The initial investment was, is potentially a problem, unless it was a inside round of everybody who came together, like you said, Brad, and everybody knew what was going on.
I mean, that's, I'm assuming. I have no idea for sure.
But look, if you went out and did an ICO, let's say, or raised money, like, from unknowns, and then you return less, you're still exposed.
Yeah, and here's the thing. They're not returning ETH.
Oh, I didn't know this.
Now, here's the crazy thing. They announced they're shutting down PandaDAO, but the way that they're going to return money to people is by giving them Panda tokens.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Good luck getting through that one, guys. I mean, if I'm on the other side of that and I gave you 50 ETH, I'm like, hey, here's my lawyer. Deal with it.
Yeah, exactly.
And you didn't communicate. Now, again, if I've got 5 million ETH, 50 ETH is a drop in the bucket. I don't really care, and you're good guys, then, tell me to my face. Right. But if I'm the little dude who put in, the house down payment money, and you're giving me back half of it, and it sounds like a shitty token that's getting ready to get abandoned and flatlined, then I'm going to be like,
well, here's the dump. Here's the dump on it. But here's the weird thing. Panda DAO is a sub DAO of People DAO. Panda DAO goal is to break the Web 2's grip on human resources and information. What the fuck does that mean?
Release the
Niblets
from slavery? I don't know. I'm sorry.
Thanks for the investment. Here's some belly button lint.
Exactly. It's like when I got nuked on Blizzard Finance, and it's like, thanks for playing. Here's your 4 cents.
This is their website. What the fuck is this? I mean, it's like, it's just ridiculous. The whole thing is silly. But look, I'm glad they are realizing they're never going to get past this shit and they're shutting it down, because obviously this was a fucking train wreck. But what the hell is, now I want to know what People DAO is. I'm going to regret this.
Yeah, going down the rat hole.
Yeah, I'm going to totally regret this fucking rabbit hole. I can tell now. But it looks like it's very Chinese oriented. So anyway, let's see what else. Oh, you posted up. Well, this one more thing. Danielle is out.
He got booted. Good.
Well, he resigned. But you know what it came down to? Because I listened to the call. It came down to the fact that he just didn't like fucking being questioned. And he wasn't about to just hand over, he handed over control, but he wasn't about to hand over control while still trying to remain in it. Right. And I listened to the call where basically they had been grilling him for a week online and asking him questions and asking him to explain things, asking him to explain the multi-sig, all that shit we talked about a week or two ago. And finally, he still was refusing to answer the questions, was like jumping all over the place, making up excuses, trying to get the conversation moving along. The bottom line is, I think there's more to what this fucking guy did than what we know on the sleaze side of things, because he's like just refusing to disclose shit that's important to the DAO that he claimed he wanted to have happen. But what he really wanted to have happen was everyone to feel like they were voting and him to still be able to drive forward with his vision. But he is out now. They're getting control of the wallets. They're getting control of the code. They're getting control of everything. And here's the really interesting thing. They're launching a liquid staking platform on Avalanche, and they're actually building products and investing in startups with Wonderland. So, more power to them. All those people that were, core believers in Danielle and part of the cult, I think they've had an awakening to the fact that that was stupid. And they're actually now stepping up and taking over their DAO and trying to drive forward with a mission and with responsibly investing their money and everything else. So I'm excited to see it for them. It would be really cool to have this be a turnaround story, right? Where cult leader gets ditched, kicked out, and the cult figures out the cult leader was an idiot and takes over the project and turns it into something. That to me would be a very cool story.
Well, look at this. Somebody's been dumping a shitload starting at about
probably him.
Like 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to send a link to you, and you put it up. Where is? Hold on a second, guys.
I got the chart open. Oh, look at that. Oh,
no, look at the daily, man. There's it went from 17 to like 11. Here, I'm sending you the coin market cap chart.
Today?
Well, I think so. Wonderland time down 30%. It
looks like it's been between 12 and 11 since all this week.
So maybe my y-axis bar is off.
I think something's off on your chart, because look, it's in the last month. It's climbed from, down at $10.
But look at the 1 day chart. Look at the 1 day. I mean, the chart of just 1 day period. Not.
Yeah, this is 24 hours.
All right, hold on. Check something. Yeah, I see it on the 7 day too, from like 18 to 10, and then coming back to 11.
That's weird. That's a
But
completely
can you
different
open the
chart.
link I sent you and
I
look
did.
at
I
it?
got it open right now on screen.
Oh, that's right. I got a black screen. That's what. Yeah, there you go. I got a black screen. Now, what does it say below that big drop? Like 8:53 this morning, or is it a different day and I'm missing that?
No, that's today.
Yeah. Okay.
Let me look at TradingView. That's really strange. Maybe DropSpot is having troubles with their charts. It's really weird, dude.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, and then look back on like the 16th. Somebody came in when it was at 11 and pushed it up to 19. And then on the 17th, 18th time frame, it goes back down to 12. Yeah, I don't know what the hell this is. Hold on,
What
that's
the
price
fuck?
too.
On Polynex, it's down to $6.
Yeah. What was that chart you were looking at? You might want to look at more. So more charts before you do something, dude. Because
that was DropSpot. I always look at TradingView, but look, here's DropSpot. Oh, I'm looking at time. What are you looking at, Joe? What token are you looking
Wonderland
at?
Time?
Yeah, Time USDT.
Avalanche D-Chain, smart contract ending in 9C3.
That's fucking weird, dude. Because this is time on Polynex.
Let me look on CoinGecko.
Wow.
Wonderland.
This is showing last trade at $6 on Polynex.
CoinGecko's showing 5.99, down 48% since the announcement.
That's crazy. So I would assume Danielle and company are dumping.
Danielle and Sifu and those guys, they're all like, oh yeah, fuckers, and they're dumping now. But it's just good riddance, guys.
Exactly.
Fight it and put something together now. Because I remember when that was that at like 8,000, 10,000 at one point?
I don't even remember at this point.
I think I remember selling some at like 8,000 or 8,500, but I got it like $6, not at $6, 600. So I mean, or 6,000. So, but it's weird because, yeah, then volume just fell off a cliff. Yeah, whatever. It's in a tank.
Whatever. Hey, I'm glad to see it. I'm glad to see them taking on what?
Now it's $12 over on CoinMarketCap again.
Euphoric is saying they voted in Sifu as the interim treasury manager, which I actually would vote for that because that guy made
he
fucking
did a good
money.
job, didn't he?
Yeah, I would totally vote for that. At this point, why the fuck not?
My feeling with that guy is,
but I didn't see that in the stuff I was reading. James says the People DAO is the Constitution DAO.
Oh, that's right.
Is it?
I think it is. I didn't even think of that. When the whole Sifu stuff broke, I mean, and everybody's talking about the identity theft, and he was associated, as a teenager in the association with the Quadriga guy. I sort of felt like he was getting blamed for a lot of stuff that, for the Quadriga guy and for everything else. And I always believe in second chances. I mean, of course, identity theft, but there's a lot of kids running around in these gangs and stuff doing stuff like that. I mean, those fake ID rings and everything.
Yeah.
I don't really, it's bad. It's like, getting a DUI or something. It's like it's not.
James is right that People DAO, by the way, is that Constitution. They were trying to buy the Constitution, and it is Panda DAO is the sub DAO. So thank you, James.
Well, maybe that makes sense because they couldn't figure out what else to buy.
Yeah. No, because Panda DAO is a sub DAO to People DAO. Panda DAO was its own thing. And I have a feeling it's what I said, which is it was a group of people coming out of People DAO that created a sub DAO, had raised this money, blah, blah, blah. But, this whole idea of, hey, we're going to kill the DAO and we're going to compensate everybody with token of DAO that we just killed isn't probably the best strategy to avoid.
It's a souvenir, man.
Lawsuits.
Here's your souvenir, dude.
Evidently, People DAO was holding an emergency meeting of the People DAO was holding an emergency meeting of Panda DAO. Anyway, That's enough.
Did we get? Let me see. It's 1 o'clock. Got to roll. But did we get through everything?
No, we
Okay,
didn't. We didn't get to Nvidia. We didn't get to Apple's. You had something
there
about
was something.
Apple.
No, there was this new tech in that one for the LiDAR stuff for blind people. And you're going to be able to walk around, and that phone can read addresses and tell you the steps and point you to the door. It can see features.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so it guides a blind person like they have a stick with a dog, basically.
Fucking awesome.
And it tells them, it reads addresses, it reads, and it kind of builds the world in there. So then it tracks down its content repository on regular places the blind person would go, and it allows them to move around.
Jesus
That's fucking amazing shit.
That's cool. I didn't see that coming, Joe.
I didn't either. I mean, to me, that's like gets into that area of like virtual eyes and shit, you know?
It's very cool. I was making a little pun.
No, I heard that. I was just ignoring you at that point. But I know that this is, well, it's a military technology, basically, that's been
it's very cool.
Commercialized.
And it makes total friggin' sense. I mean, this is brilliant. This is really, I mean, imagine the people's lives that'll be changed.
But think what also it can do in, say, automated other technologies, let's say, other, you know, think about like how LiDAR is used in the, what do you call it? The driverless car market,
right?
You know, and think now it's almost like they're putting context around it now for blind people. So expect that you could do that in all these other areas too, where you're scanning an environment around you, not just visual stuff. So other sensory inputs. So to me, I mean, you know, I'm an Android guy, but I'll give a shout out to them for that one.
This is cool. They're also adding live captions on any audio content. So I would assume phone calls, videos, whatever you're watching or listening to, they're going to have live captions streaming in.
All right, let's save the rest and get out of here.
Let's roll. Gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching and listening. We love you and appreciate you. And thank you for being with us for so long. Joe and I have a great time doing this.
Yeah.
And on our 200th anniversary, 200 episode landmark milestone, we appreciate you and are glad you're here with us every day, participating and listening. And if you could, please just go give us a quick review on Apple iTunes if you enjoy the content and the discussions we have. James Strickland, Euphoric, Niblets, Sean, Shizzy, Eamon. Did I miss anybody? Thank you so much for your participation today and for adding to the conversation. We wouldn't be the same without you guys. You make a huge difference. You keep us on our toes and you make sure we don't look more stupid than we need to. So that's appreciated. Go to the Reddit, people. Reddit /r. Subreddit is Mission DeFi. r/Mission DeFi. Would appreciate you joining us and having a conversation there. I think it's a great way for us to all get together and talk about more things. Sean started an awesome conversation about his goal of getting DeFi onto Bitcoin. I mean, he's actively soliciting people to build a project there, folks. He's got sats waiting. So join the conversation. Let's all have a conversation about how that's possible, how we make it happen.
Yeah.
And what could happen there. Maybe we'll take over Panda DAO and we'll start the Panda Bitcoin DeFi project. Who knows? Anyway, thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day. Joe, have a lovely afternoon.
You too, buddy. And if anybody's interested after the FOMC announcement, David Kelly of JP Morgan is going to be doing a discussion on interest rates. It's in my Twitter feed. It's at 4:15. You can just register and listen. But they're talking about all the things that we talk about: Europe, US, dollar, everything. And these are some smart guys. So if you have time and you're interested in that kind of stuff, just look at my feed. You'll see it. It's today at 4:15, and the link's there for you to register.